The message arrived on a Tuesday. Earth's global communications network lit up as the alien transmission decoded itself into every major language simultaneously. Humanity was not alone, and they were being invited to join the galactic community. 3 months later, Captain Allison Wright stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel Horizon, watching the massive Galactic Council station grow larger against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. At 42, with streaks of gray in her brown hair, Allison had spent her career expecting to mediate conflicts between human colonies, not alien civilizations. "Captain, they're sending docking instructions," said Victor Ramirez, his fingers dancing across the communications console. "And a welcome message." Allison nodded. "Send our acknowledgement." "Admiral, are we ready?" Admiral Peter Novak joined her at the viewport. His weathered face remained impassive, but his eyes revealed the same mix of wonder and caution that Allison felt. "As ready as we'll ever be. The first humans to officially represent Earth to the galaxy. No pressure." They both smiled, tension breaking momentarily. The ship docked with barely a shudder. A marvel of engineering, Allison thought, or perhaps just everyday technology for species that had been traveling between stars for millennia. The welcoming committee waited beyond the airlock. 4 different alien species stood in a semicircle. They varied in height, color, and shape, but all shared one common feature that Allison immediately noticed. They all looked fragile compared to humans. A tall, willowy being with pale blue skin stepped forward. "I am Council Representative Cal Farr of the Galaxy Confederation. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome humanity to Harmony Station." Allison performed the practiced bow. "Captain Allison Wright of Earth's Diplomatic Corps, we are honored by your invitation and eager to learn." The alien's large eyes blinked slowly. "We are equally eager to learn about Earth. It is rare for sentient life to evolve on what our scientists classify as a death world." "Death world?" Admiral Novak asked, his voice carefully neutral. A smaller alien with green, scale-like skin made a gesture that might have been apologetic. "A technical term only. Planets with high gravity, extreme climate variations, dangerous flora and fauna, and high levels of natural disasters. Environments that create hardy species. Like yours," added Exalfar. "Your physical resilience is remarkable. Your bones would not snap under my world's gravity, yet mine would crush under yours." Allison noticed how the aliens maintained a careful distance. Not fear exactly, but caution. The kind of caution prey shows around predators. The tour of Harmony Station revealed a thriving multi-species civilization. Hundreds of different beings moved through grand plazas under artificial skies. Markets buzzed with trade in goods from 1,000 worlds. Yet for all its wonder, Allison felt something was missing. "Where are the other Deathworld species?" she asked during a formal dinner that evening. A momentary silence fell across the table. "The Crodari representatives are currently away on diplomatic business," Jalfar said smoothly. "They are the only other active council members from a high-gravity world. You will meet them eventually." Later, in private quarters assigned to the human delegation, Allison met with her team. "They're hiding something," said Daniel Carter, the military attaché. Tall and built like a runner, Daniel had spent the evening carefully observing security arrangements. "Did you notice how they keep steering conversations away from certain topics?" Samantha Cole, the mission's chief engineer, nodded. "And they're very interested in our physical capabilities. That whole demonstration of lifting strength they requested wasn't just curiosity." "Tomorrow we attend the formal council session," Allison said. "They'll outline the membership process, including the Centennial Games requirement." "Games?" Daniel asked. "Apparently every new species must participate in some kind of Olympic competition before formal admission. A tradition, they say, dates back thousands of years." Admiral Novak frowned. "A test, you mean? To see what we're capable of." "Exactly," Allison agreed. "So remember, everyone, we're guests here, but we're also representatives of Earth. Be respectful, be friendly." But watch for the knife behind the smile. Novik finished. Allison nodded. Tomorrow would begin a new chapter of human history. She just hoped they were reading the story correctly. Morning aboard Harmony Station arrived with artificial sunlight gradually brightening the human quarters. Lieutenant Daniel Carter sat alone in the common area, surrounded by data tablets. His eyes burned from reading all night, but he couldn't stop. Something about the Centennial Games bothered him. Allison entered, headed straight for the coffee machine the humans had brought from Earth. Find anything interesting? Daniel rubbed his eyes. Too much. These games have been held for over 10,000 years. Every new species competes before gaining full council membership. That seems reasonable, Allison said, sipping her coffee. A tradition to welcome newcomers. On the surface, yes. Daniel pulled up a chart. But look at the patterns. Species from what they call garden worlds always score higher overall than those from harsher environments. That can't be right. Wouldn't species from tougher worlds have advantages? You'd think so. In physical contests, yes. But the overall scoring system heavily favors mental and technical competitions. And there are more of those categories. Admiral Novik joined them, his uniform already perfectly pressed. So the deck is stacked. It gets worse, Daniel continued. The Croderi, the other Deathworld species, dominated the physical games 200 years ago, but their overall ranking was still low. After joining the Council, they received technology upgrades, protection treaties. And what happened? Allison asked. They've become dependent. Their military is now integrated with Council forces. Their once renowned physical abilities have declined. The official explanation is adaptation to galactic standard environments. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Later that morning, the human delegation entered the great chamber of the Galactic Council. The room was enormous, with hundreds of alien representatives seated in rising tiers. The humans felt every eye upon them as they walked to their designated position. Zalfar approached with another alien, this one with 4 arms and copper-colored skin. Captain Wright, may I introduce Games Commissioner Pelvor? He will explain the Centennial Games procedures. The 4-armed alien bowed slightly. It is our greatest tradition. Through friendly competition, we learn each species' strengths and cultural uniqueness. We look forward to participating, Allison said carefully. When do these games begin? Preparations are already underway. The games commence in 30 days. Your team will have access to training facilities and rulebooks immediately. As they toured the training areas, Samantha Cole slipped next to Allison. Captain, my instruments are picking up unusual energy readings around us. I think we're being scanned. Keep monitoring, but don't look concerned, Allison whispered back. The training facility was impressive, with areas dedicated to various competitions. Physical arenas for strength and speed tests. Virtual chambers for problem-solving and scientific challenges. Cultural exhibition spaces. Commissioner Pelvor watched Daniel test a gravity-adjusted lifting platform. Remarkable. The alien commented as Daniel easily lifted weights calibrated for his Earth-normal physiology. Your species has evolved such durability. Just an adaptation to our environment, Daniel replied, noting how several other aliens observed from a distance, recording devices in hand. That evening, the human team gathered again in their quarters, having swept for listening devices. They're studying us. Admiral Novik stated flatly. Every move, every capability. Samantha nodded. I detected at least 17 different scanning technologies focused on us today. They're building a complete biological and psychological profile. The Games Commissioner seemed particularly interested in our physical limits, Daniel added. So what's our approach? Allison asked. We're being evaluated whether we like it or not. Admiral Novik's expression was grim. For now, we play their game. Show enough to be respectful, but not everything we can do. You think they mean us harm? Samantha asked. Not harm, Allison replied. Control. These games aren't just tradition. Their assessment. They want to know exactly what humans are capable of before deciding how to handle us. Daniel turned one of the rule tablets in his hands. There are over 3,000 regulations governing the games. I'll need to study every one. Do it, Novik ordered. Find the loopholes, the advantages. If this is a test, we need to understand the real rules, not just the ones they're telling us about. As light dimmed in their quarters, signaling artificial night, Allison stared out at the vast station. Somewhere out there, decisions about humanity's future were being discussed, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the games were just the beginning of a much longer contest. The Centennial Games began with a ceremony that dazzled the senses. Light displays filled the massive arena on Harmony Station. Thousands of aliens from hundreds of worlds watched from the stands. In the center, the human delegation stood alongside representatives from other species who would compete. Allison felt small among the diverse gathering, yet noticed how other species kept a respectful distance from the humans. Not out of courtesy, she suspected, but caution. Let the games celebrate unity through diversity, announced Commissioner Pelvor, his 4 arms raised. May each species demonstrate their unique gifts. The humans had spent the past month preparing. Daniel had studied the rulebooks obsessively. Samantha had analyzed the competition equipment. The rest of the team had trained hard while carefully monitoring what they revealed about human capabilities. Remember the plan, Admiral Novik whispered as they dispersed to their first events. Perform well, but not too well. The physical competitions came first. Daniel represented humanity in the strength trials, competing against beings from 20 different worlds. The course involved lifting, climbing, and endurance challenges adjusted for each species' home gravity. Daniel moved through the course with controlled power. He outperformed most competitors, but deliberately struggled with certain obstacles. From the observation deck, Allison watched the aliens' reactions. They seemed unsurprised by Daniel's performance, exactly as expected. They already had us measured, she muttered to Novik. Which means their scans were thorough, he replied. They know roughly what we're capable of. In the speed trials, the humans placed third. In endurance, second. Respectable showings that demonstrated human physical prowess without suggesting anything extraordinary. The technical and mental competitions proved more challenging. Earth's science had developed along different paths than the galactic standard. Problems that seemed simple to alien competitors sometimes puzzled the humans, while Earth's solutions often appeared needlessly complex to the judges. It's like they're testing if we think the right way, Samantha said after finishing a technical challenge. Not just if we can solve the problem, but if we solve it their way. A week into the games, the humans had established a pattern. Strong in physical competitions, middle-ranked in technical challenges, struggling with some of the more esoteric mental tests, exactly what the Council would expect from Deathworlders. That evening, Samantha approached Allison with a portable scanner. Captain, I need to show you something. They walked through the station's gardens, appearing to admire the alien plants while Samantha's scanner remained hidden in her palm. These energy signatures I've been tracking. They're everywhere. Around our quarters, the competition areas, even here. She showed Allison the readings. It's surveillance, but far more intensive than security would require. They're still studying us, Allison said. Not just us. Samantha pointed the scanner toward other species' quarters. Everyone. But the concentration around human areas is 5 times higher. Allison processed this information. What about competition equipment? Some of it has been calibrated specifically for us, beyond standard safety adjustments. The mental challenge simulators, for instance, they're recording our neural patterns. The physical equipment collects biological data during use. They're building a complete profile of human capabilities. Samantha nodded. And comparing it to baseline data they must have gathered from our transmissions before contact. Later, Allison shared this information with Admiral Novik, and Daniel, in a secure room Samantha had verified was clean of listening devices. Tomorrow I compete in the tactical simulation, Daniel said. It's supposed to test decision-making under pressure. Be careful, Allison warned. They're not just scoring performance. They're analyzing how humans think and react. I'll show them what they expect to see, Daniel promised. That night, Allison couldn't sleep. She stood at the viewport in her quarters, looking out at the stars. So many worlds, so many species, all part of this massive galactic civilization. And humanity was being evaluated for membership through games that seemed increasingly like an elaborate intelligence-gathering operation. The Council wanted to know exactly what humans were capable of, their strengths, weaknesses, thought patterns, and reaction times. Knowledge that could be used to help humanity join galactic society, or to determine exactly how to control a potentially dangerous Deathworld species. We're not playing games, Allison whispered to herself. We're being measured for a cage. The second week of games brought new challenges and an unexpected complication. Daniel competed in a physical contest against a Kethral athlete, a reptilian species known for their agility. The event required participants to navigate an obstacle course while retrieving targets. Daniel moved carefully, mindful of the plan to show good but not exceptional ability. Near the final obstacle, the Kethral competitor slipped and fell into Daniel's path. Daniel tried to avoid collision, but couldn't completely. The Kethral hit the ground hard. Medical teams rushed in. The alien writhed in pain, clutching his arm. Games officials surrounded Daniel, their translator devices chattering with concerned voices. It was an accident, Daniel explained. I tried to avoid him. Commissioner Pelivore arrived quickly. We understand, Lieutenant Carter. Please return to your team while we assess the situation. Back with the human delegation, Daniel paced nervously. I barely touched him. His bones must be incredibly fragile. You followed the rules, Admiral Novak assured him. The course judges confirmed it was an accident. But the incident created tension. Whispers spread through the station about dangerous humans and Deathworld reflexes. Several competitors withdrew from events against humans, citing safety concerns. Later that day, Laura Bennett, the team's medical officer, volunteered to assist with the injured Kethral. It might help relations, she suggested, and I can learn more about their physiology. Allison agreed. Good thinking. Show them we care about his well-being. In the medical bay, Laura worked alongside alien doctors. She noticed the advanced medical technology they used, but also observed how they seemed unfamiliar with treating impact injuries. Your species rarely experiences broken bones, she asked a blue-skinned medical technician. Very rare, the alien confirmed. Most evolved worlds have few physical dangers. Bodies adapt for efficiency, not durability. While scanning the Kethral's injury, Laura noticed something unusual in the bone structure. She reviewed the scans more carefully, comparing them with baseline data for the species. That evening, she brought her findings to Allison and the team. His bones have been artificially weakened, Laura explained, showing the scan results. Look at the mineral density. It's well below normal ranges for their species, according to the medical database. Could it be disease? Poor health? Allison asked. No, the pattern is too uniform, and it's only in the skeletal structure. Other systems are normal or enhanced. Enhanced how? Daniel asked. Neural pathways, reaction time, visual processing, all artificially improved, but the physical structure was weakened. Admiral Novak frowned. Someone modified him, made him faster but more fragile. Not just him, Laura continued. I checked records for other competitors while I was there. Many show similar patterns, mental enhancements but physical compromises. Meanwhile, Victor Ramirez had made his own discovery. The communications specialist had been monitoring station transmissions, trying to break through the complex encryption. I've been picking up fragments, he told the team, displaying intercepted data streams. Not enough to decrypt fully, but certain phrases appear repeatedly. He highlighted sections on his screen. References to human containment protocols and integration safeguards. This one mentions control mechanisms similar to Crodari implementation. They're already planning how to handle us after the games, Allison said quietly. There's more, Victor continued. Multiple species are communicating about us, coordinating their approach. This isn't just the council leadership, it's widespread. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. We're facing a galaxy that fears Deathworlders, Admiral Novik finally said. They've developed a system to identify threats and neutralize them slowly, without open confrontation. We're being evaluated for the proper cage, Allison said, remembering her earlier thought. Custom-built based on what they learned from these games. Daniel stared at the data on Victor's screen. So what do we do? If we confront them, we confirm their fears about aggressive humans. Allison looked around at her team. The games were only half finished. They had come to join a peaceful galactic community, but found instead a sophisticated system designed to eventually subjugate Earth. If they're not playing honestly with us, she said slowly, perhaps it's time we stop playing honestly with them. The third week of the games began with a formal reception. All competing species gathered in Harmony Station's Grand Hall, draped with banners representing thousands of worlds. Delicate music played from instruments no human had ever seen before. This was the traditional midpoint celebration, a time for competitors to socialize outside the competitive environment. The human delegation arrived together, dressed in their formal uniforms. Remember, tonight we gather information, Allison whispered to her team. Be friendly, be curious, but stay alert. The reception flowed with drinks that shimmered in strange colors. Food from 100 worlds filled floating trays. Despite the festive atmosphere, Allison noticed many species still kept their distance from the humans. Daniel found himself approached by a slender alien with pale purple skin and large, sensitive eyes. She introduced herself as Trilna, a junior diplomat from the Asteroid Federation. You move differently than the others, she observed, watching Daniel take a cautious sip of his drink. Always aware of your surroundings. Always careful. Just habit, Daniel replied with a smile. Earth can be dangerous if you're not paying attention. I study your world. Fascinating how life thrives under such harsh conditions. Her voice lowered. Most here cannot imagine evolving on a planet that actively tries to kill its inhabitants. Daniel laughed softly. Earth isn't trying to kill us. It's just indifferent to our survival. That creates strength, Trilna said. Her eyes darted around, checking if anyone was listening. The council fears that strength. Daniel kept his expression neutral despite his surprise. Why would they fear us? We show nothing but peaceful intentions. Trilna moved closer, speaking even more quietly. History. The Crodari were once like you. Physically powerful, adaptable, independent. The council welcomed them, integrated them, helped them. And now they depend completely on council technology. Their military exists in name only. When they finally objected to certain policies, they had no leverage. She took a drink, her hand trembling slightly. My people joined the council long ago. We've seen this pattern repeat. Across the room, Allison was engaged in conversation with Salthar and other senior council members. They discussed Earth's performance in the games, offering polite compliments on human adaptability. You've done remarkably well in the physical contests, Salthar noted, though the concept mapping challenges seem to give your team difficulty. Different worlds, different ways of thinking, Allison replied diplomatically. Precisely why these games are valuable, another council member added. They help us understand how best to integrate new species, to provide them with the proper assistance. The way he emphasized assistance sent a chill down Allison's spine. Later that night, the human team gathered in their quarters. Daniel shared his conversation with Trilna. Allison recounted the subtle warnings she detected in the council members' words. It confirms our suspicions, Admiral Novik said. The Crodari were systematically weakened, made dependent on council support. When they eventually objected, it was too late. And they want to do the same to us, Samantha added. Their advanced technology would seem like generous gifts. Protection agreements would seem like security. But gradually, Earth would lose its independence. The worst part is how subtle it would be, Laura said. A generation or two, and humans might even forget what we lost. We'd be like the Crodari, physically diminished, technologically dependent, effectively controlled. Victor displayed his latest intercepted communications. They're already planning technology transfers. Look at these specifications, systems designed to make us rely on council maintenance and upgrades. Allison paced the room, thinking, if we play their game, if we finish these competitions and accept council membership on their terms, we're agreeing to our own eventual subjugation. We could withdraw completely, Daniel suggested, return to Earth, warn our people, and be isolated in a galaxy where everyone else is connected. Admiral Novak shook his head. That makes us vulnerable in different ways. There's a third option, Allison said slowly, a plan forming in her mind. We change how we play the game. She gathered her team closer, speaking in a near whisper despite the room being secure. Here's what we're going to do. From tomorrow, we implement what I'm calling Protocol Switcheroo. The team leaned in as Allison outlined her plan. A strategy so unexpected that not even the careful calculations of the Galactic Council could have predicted it. The next morning, Daniel entered the physical challenge arena with a slight limp. Observers exchanged glances as the human who had previously dominated strength competitions struggled to complete even basic obstacles. Is the human injured? One judge asked another. No reported injuries, came the response. Perhaps fatigue from Earth's higher gravity. Meanwhile, Samantha Cole, who had performed moderately in technical challenges, suddenly displayed remarkable insight during a complex engineering problem. Her solution was elegant and unexpected, drawing surprised murmurs from the judges. I thought humans struggled with abstract spatial concepts, one examiner whispered. In the medical bay, Laura Bennett deliberately misidentified basic alien anatomical structures she had correctly named days earlier. When questioned, she appeared confused and blamed translation difficulties. Throughout Harmony Station, the pattern repeated. Humans performed inconsistently across all competitions, showing unexpected weakness where they had been strong and surprising ability where they had struggled. Behind the scenes, Allison's team worked frantically to implement Protocol Switcheroo. Samantha modified their competition equipment to display false readings. Victor flooded the station's communication networks with contradictory data about human capabilities. The entire team deliberately altered their performance patterns in ways that confused the careful council observations. In his quarters, Admiral Novak reviewed the latest reports with Allison. It's working. Their monitoring systems are recording completely inconsistent data about us. The confusion is spreading. Allison agreed. I overheard two council scientists arguing about human physiology this morning. One insisted our reaction time averages 0.3 seconds, while the other claimed recent tests showed 0.7 seconds. Both wrong, of course. Exactly. Their baseline data is becoming useless. The Council's response came swiftly. Zalfar requested a private meeting with Allison, his usual composure noticeably strained. Captain Wright, we've noticed unusual variations in your team's performance, he said when they met in a small conference room. Is there something affecting the human competitors? Perhaps our environment is causing unexpected reactions. Allison maintained an innocent expression. Nothing unusual from our perspective, Representative. Humans are highly adaptable. Our performance naturally varies as we adjust to new conditions. But the variations make no logical sense. Your lieutenant, who easily lifted twice his body weight, now struggles with basic obstacles. Your engineer, who couldn't solve elemental phase transitions yesterday, created a brilliant new approach today. Allison smiled. As I said, adaptation. Isn't that what Deathworlders do best? We learn, we adjust, we find new approaches. It's how we survived on Earth. Zalfar's large eyes narrowed slightly. These games have been carefully designed over thousands of years to provide accurate assessment of new species, and we're honored to participate in your tradition. That evening, Commissioner Pelvor announced that several competition parameters would be recalibrated to ensure fair assessment. The human team knew this meant the Council was adjusting their tests to get more consistent readings. Samantha worked through the night, modifying their approach again. They're adding more sensors, more monitoring equipment. We need to be smarter about how we confuse them. Victor joined her, bringing his communications expertise. I've identified patterns in their monitoring frequencies. We can target those specifically. The next day, humans continued their puzzling performance. Daniel excelled at a mental challenge that should have been difficult for Deathworlders. Laura suddenly displayed remarkable strength in a physical test. When monitoring equipment was adjusted, the humans somehow performed differently again. Council scientists watched in growing frustration as their careful models fell apart. Species that had evolved on predictable garden worlds followed predictable patterns. Deathworlders, like humans, it seemed, did not. During a particularly difficult technical challenge, a frustrated examiner directly asked Samantha how she had solved a problem that had stumped her the previous day. She smiled pleasantly. I approached it differently today. That's not an explanation, the examiner insisted. On Earth, we have a saying, Samantha replied. If something doesn't work, try another way. Persistence in a failed approach is just stubbornness. The examiner's translator device struggled with the concept, but the message was clear. Humans would not be easily categorized, measured, or controlled. By the start of the final week, frustration among council officials had reached a breaking point. Emergency meetings were called. Scientists argued over contradictory data. The careful assessment system built over thousands of years was failing with a single species. The Helhotar summoned Admiral Novak to a formal meeting chamber. Unlike previous diplomatic encounters, this time several senior council members were present, their expressions severe. Admiral, we must speak plainly, Jalfar began. Your team's performance has become erratic to the point of disrupting the game's integrity. Novak maintained a neutral expression. I'm not sure I understand your concern, Representative. My people are competing within the established rules. The rules assume honest representation of abilities. Another council member interjected. Your team appears to be deliberately inconsistent. That's a serious accusation, Novak replied calmly. Do you have evidence of rule violations? Zalfar's composure slipped. We have recordings of Lieutenant Carter lifting 3 times more weight during practice than he managed in yesterday's official trial. We have brain scans showing Engineer Cole's neural patterns changing dramatically between similar tests. This is not natural variation. Novak watched him carefully. And how exactly did you obtain these private recordings and unauthorized brain scans? The room fell silent. Zalfar realized his mistake too late. It seems, Novak said slowly, that while you accuse us of dishonesty, you've been conducting extensive surveillance beyond what the game's regulations permit. He reached into his pocket and placed a small device on the table. It projected a holographic display of data streams, the evidence Victor had gathered of the Council's communications, human containment protocols, integration safeguards, control mechanisms similar to Crodari implementation. Care to explain these terms, Representative? The Council members exchanged alarmed glances. Those are private communications, one finally said. How did you access them? The same way you accessed our private training sessions and medical data, Novak replied. We adapted. That's what Deathworlders do. He stood, his voice growing firm, but never threatening. We came here to join a fair and equal community. Instead, we found a hierarchy built on deception. You invited us to games that are actually assessment tools. You monitored us without consent to determine how best to control us later. You designed a system to gradually make us dependent and weak, like the Crodari. These are serious misunderstandings, Zalfar insisted. The Council has always. Don't, Novak cut him off. Don't continue the lie. We know what happened to the Crodari. We know what you planned for Earth. He looked at each council member. Humanity will not play a rigged game. We withdraw from these competitions and reject council membership under current terms. The announcement caused an uproar. Council members spoke over each other, translator devices struggling to keep pace. That is unprecedented. You cannot simply withdraw. The consequences for Earth will be severe. Novak remained unmoved. The consequences of allowing Earth to be slowly stripped of its independence would be far worse. We'll prepare our ship for departure. As he turned to leave, HFY called out, "You make a grave mistake, Admiral. Your world will be isolated, alone in a dangerous galaxy." Novak paused at the door. "We survived a death world, Representative. I think we'll manage." News of humanity's withdrawal spread through Harmony Station like wildfire. Council chambers fell into chaos as delegations blamed each other for the diplomatic disaster. Some demanded sanctions against Earth. Others suggested military containment. Yet in private corners of the station, other reactions emerged. Several younger species, long suspicious of council politics, quietly expressed support for humanity's stance. 3 delegations formally requested meetings with the humans before their departure. In the human quarters, Allison received the news of Novak's confrontation with mixed emotions. "It was inevitable," she told her team. "But I'm concerned about returning to Earth isolated from galactic society." As if in answer to her worries, Victor burst into the room. "Captain, you need to see this. We've received a secure communication request from 5 different species, independently. They want to talk, outside official council channels." Allison raised an eyebrow. "It seems our little rebellion has caught some attention." "What do we do?" Daniel asked. She considered for only a moment. "Accept all 5 calls. Let's see if there are others who are tired of playing rigged games." The diplomatic lounge on Harmony Station's neutral sector had never hosted such an unusual gathering. Representatives from 5 species sat with the human delegation, far from council monitoring systems. Trilna of the asteroid was there, along with delegates from the Varan Collective, the Solari Union, the Nix Confederation, and surprisingly, a single Crodari named Vextor. "We admire your courage," the Solari representative said, their crystalline body reflecting light as they spoke. "Few have dared challenge the Council's methods so openly." "We didn't come here looking for a fight," Allison explained. "We simply refuse to be manipulated." Vextor, the Crodari, nodded slowly. His once powerful frame now appeared diminished, just as Trilna had described. "My people were not so fortunate. We trusted too long. By the time we recognized the pattern, we depended on council technology for our basic needs." "How did you discover the deception so quickly?" asked the Nix representative, their dark eyes curious. Allison glanced at her team before answering. "On a death world, those who fail to recognize predators don't survive long enough to evolve intelligence. We're trained by evolution to spot when something isn't right. The Council isn't evil," Trilna added. "They truly believe they're maintaining galactic peace, but their methods are problematic." "Control through dependency isn't peace," Daniel said. "It's just a comfortable cage." The Varan representative, whose insectoid features remained difficult for humans to read, tapped a complex pattern on the table. "The question is, what happens now? The Council controls major trade routes, technology sharing, and defense networks." Admiral Novak leaned forward. "We're not proposing war or revolution, just an alternative." "What kind of alternative?" several voices asked at once. "A new approach to galactic cooperation," Allison explained. "One based on transparency and mutual respect rather than control, where species can share knowledge without creating dependency." Discussions continued for hours. Each species had their own grievances with the council system. The Solari chafed under technology restrictions. The Varan resented cultural standardization policies. The Nix had been fighting for centuries to preserve their unique biology against council health upgrades. We have different strengths and weaknesses, Samantha observed. In a fair system, we could complement each other instead of all being forced into the same model. As the meeting concluded, the 6 species reached a preliminary agreement. They would establish their own information-sharing network, independent of council systems. Trade would begin on a small scale. Cultural and scientific exchanges would follow. Not an alliance against the council, Admiral Novik clarified. Just an alternative way forward. Before departing Harmony Station, the human delegation left one final item with Commissioner Pelfor, a modified version of the Centennial Games rulebook. What is this? The 4-armed alien asked, confused. A gift, Allison told him. We've added some concepts from Earth. Transparency requirements, participant consent protocols, honest disclosure of all monitoring. Simple concepts of fairness that might improve your games for future species. Pelvor seemed uncertain whether to be offended or intrigued. As the Horizon undocked from Harmony Station to begin its journey home, the human team gathered on the bridge to watch the massive structure recede into the distance. Do you think they'll change? Daniel asked. Probably not quickly, Allison replied. Systems that old don't adapt easily. But we've started something, Victor added. Those 5 species won't be the last to seek alternatives. Laura nodded. And we've shown that Deathworlders can't be easily controlled. That alone changes the equation. Admiral Novik looked thoughtful as he watched the stars. The galaxy won't be the same after this. For better or worse, humanity has made its mark. Not through force, Allison noted, but by refusing to play a rigged game. Centuries later, historians throughout the galaxy would mark this moment as a pivotal shift in interspecies relations. Some called it the Deathworlder Revolution. Others, the Harmony Divergence. But among thousands of species across countless worlds, it was most commonly remembered simply as the day Deathworlders stopped playing honestly. The story passed from world to world, growing with each telling. How humans had seen through the grand deception, how they had confused their observers with unpredictable behavior, how they had revealed the truth and offered an alternative. A legend every species remembers, of how the most dangerous adaptation from Earth wasn't physical strength or resilience, but the ability to recognize manipulation and reject it. The day humanity proved that honest cooperation between different species was not just possible, but necessary for true galactic peace.